One-on-One with Jane Mitchell, featuring the legends.
Legend, a famous or important person who is known for doing something extremely well. That is Ted Williams. Perhaps the greatest hitter the game has ever seen, the lanky San Diego Kid was the last major leaguer to hit 400, and he did it more than 70 years ago. This 2000 interview, conducted right here at the San Diego Hall of Champions and Sports Museum, is believed to be his last in-depth television interview. He died in Florida July 5, 2002, at 83 years old. While there was a well-publicized family controversy about his remains, that can't overshadow his extraordinary life. You don't have to be a baseball fan to appreciate his story, one about luck, loss, love, and learning, sometimes the hard way. Ted Williams, the player, his presence, his stature, his swing. At 6'4", 198 pounds, a look made for the job, the John Wayne of baseball. The Kid, the splendid splinter, Teddy Ballgame. Nicknames befitting a man whose statistics and style make for a remarkable career, a remarkable story.
I have to say I'm probably as lucky as you can be as an individual. Considering everything that's happened to me, a career with a lot of excitement connected to it, and I'm still kicking at 80-something. I know more than anybody else how lucky I've been.
30 years ago, Ted Williams told his life story in a book, My Turn at Bat. He wrote, "If there ever was a man born to be a hitter, it was me. As a kid, I wished on every falling star, please, let me be the hitter I want to be." Fate would have that wish come true for Teddy Samuel Williams, born August 30th, 1918 in San Diego. He and his younger brother Danny grew up in a little house at 4121 Utah Street in North Park, just a block and a half away from the playground on which Teddy Williams would begin his amazing journey. And from as early as he can remember, he had a bat in his hand.
I mean, it was baseball, baseball, baseball.
Where did you get the drive and that conviction to work at it so hard every day, even as a kid?
The most fun I ever had in my life was holding the bat and hitting a ball and then really hitting one on the button, and what a feel. Could just vibrate through my body that, what a feeling.
His drive also was the result of essentially growing up by himself. His father, Sam, was a former Marine in World War I, a quiet man who owned a little photography store on Fifth Avenue downtown and didn't get home until late in the evening. His mother, May, from El Paso and of Mexican heritage, was dedicated to serving the poor.
My mother was with the Salvation Army. Her whole life was that. And she went that way, and my dad was going that way, and I was going out some other place.
His brother had leukemia and had no interest in baseball, and the two were never close. So Ted Williams filled a void and followed his heart with baseball, which motivated him to be the first to arrive every day at Garfield Elementary School.
It was easy for me to get up early in the morning and be there when that janitor got there. So I could open the clothes closet and we'd get in and get the ball and bat. And then I'd come on home in the afternoon. Same thing. I had other kids or their fathers, and they were at the ball diamond. Opportunity galore.
Williams remembers well Rod Luscombe, the playground director at North Park.
He was just like a frustrated old ball player. Loved it, wanted to be with it. He was just as eager to practice with me as I was with him. I have always given him a lot of credit for stimulating my great desire.
He was young Ted's first real hero because he cared and taught him about the intricacies of facing different pitchers. With Williams getting up to 100 at-bats a day and with his keen eyesight, practice began to make perfect.
I always wanted to, as I started to play, to excel. And I had the opportunity, and I had some natural talent, and all of a sudden, why, I was a good hitter.
For 7 years, Williams played ball with Luscombe at the playground every day but Saturday. Saturday was for exploring San Diego's great outdoors. A landscape in the early 30s dotted less with traffic and more with natural targets.
I'd go down to Mission Valley and start hunting rabbits, or maybe find a duck still sitting in the pond.
After a Saturday of being outside, he and his friends would listen to USC games, then Benny Goodman and swing music on the radio. As a kid with not much of a home life, Williams bonded with Les Cassie, the father of Les Jr., Williams' friend and teammate in school.
He just naturally took to Ted. He and Ted were just really great friends from the minute I brought him over to our house.
One of my dearest memories in life was Mr. Cassie, and he was an ardent surf fisherman. And at an early age, I started making my own Calcutta rods. And the fishing was pretty good in some of these beaches. Nice corvinas, nice croakers.
Les Jr. didn't like fishing, so Williams and Mr. Cassie often spent Friday nights on the shores of Coronado.
We'd go by that Coronado Hotel 8, 9 o'clock at night, see the big chandelier and the big ballroom there. And we'd fish till 12, and then we'd drive back again.
While fishing and hunting were his recreation, the baseball diamond was young Ted's calling. By 10th grade, Williams had a choice of high schools. San Diego High was the area's biggest at the time. Hoover High was smaller and newer.
I was right on the line. I could have went that way or this way. And I decided I got a better chance of making the team at Hoover than I do at San Diego, and I wanted to play.
He visited Hoover's batting practice and hit 2 balls further than anyone off baseball coach Was Caldwell.
Caldwell says, "What's your name, kid?" He says, "My name's Ted Williams." And he says, "I'll be here next Monday." He says, "I'm enrolling next Monday." And that's how it all started.
So Hoover it was. That's where he met Bob Breitbard, a football player, class president, and classmate in typing.
And we had a wonderful teacher, Mrs. Hamilton. I always remember her name because she loved him, and he could say, and he had a loud voice, and he'd say, "Hey, teach."
They've been friends for 66 years.
He always liked me to tell about all the wonderful tips that he'd give me
Is that right?
that helped carry me through my baseball career.
And what were those tips?
Hitting tips. He couldn't hit, but he could sure talk hitting.
Hitting was Ted Williams' obsession, running an obstacle. So Coach Caldwell challenged him with racing around the bases.
Oh, he could run. For a coach, he could run, and here I am, a gangly 17-year-old kid. Couldn't run at all, just all arms and legs.
But his young beanpole body was conducive to hitting and pitching. He won all Southern California honors as a pitcher his junior year and as an outfielder his senior year, 1936. On the mound, he pitched his team to playoff spots, one game recording 20 strikeouts. His ability and potential caught the attention of scouts from Detroit and Los Angeles. He turned down offers from St. Louis and the Yankees.
My mother wanted me to be around San Diego, around her, so I signed with San Diego.
The new Pacific Coast League San Diego Padres, fresh from Hollywood, needed a local draw, and Williams, the best high school player in town and a prospect, fit the bill for $150 a month.
They said, "You sign with us, we'll pay you for the whole month of June and for the rest of the season."
At 17 years old and still months away from getting his high school diploma in January of 1937, Ted Williams was a professional ball player.
The beginning of his professional career would deliver much more than expected. Up next on One, the brash and brilliance of a rookie with the Boston Red Sox and the story of his still unmatched record-setting year, 1941. At 17, Ted Williams was a wonder boy, not just for his knack with the bat, but for his unbridled enthusiasm for baseball, always swinging an imaginary bat, even while shagging balls. With the Pacific Coast League Padres, he pinch hit, pitched, and played the outfield. He threw right and batted left, and it was his classic swing that impressed Red Sox general manager Eddie Collins. While visiting Boston's affiliate, he saw Williams play and asked for an option on him.
So that when I got a little better going, they would buy me and I'd become a Red Soxer.
Ted grew an inch and added 10 pounds, so by the 37th season, his swing delivered line drives and home runs, finishing the year hitting 23 out of the park. The Red Sox were convinced and bought Williams' contract for $25,000 and 4 ball players.
And at that time, I thought it was a terrible break. Here I'm going from San Diego way down here, the furthest I could go northeast. Never been in snow, never did this, never did that. And I thought, oh boy.
He was greeted at spring training in Sarasota, Florida, with fans and ball players ribbing him for being from small-time baseball and the West Coast. Not afraid to respond, he was soon dubbed the Fresh Rookie and California Cookie.
I wasn't sure whether I'd said the right thing or not. I can tell you, boy, I was as scared as anybody else when I was getting going and hoping I could do it.
He couldn't quite handle major league pitching, so he was bused to the Red Sox farm team, the Minneapolis Millers. He vowed he'd be back, but first he had a little growing up to do. The new Miller was described as both a sensational rising star and a spoiled kid who seemed to have it too easy professionally. Tearing up the clubhouse after going hitless in 3 consecutive games, not hustling to first after a hit he hoped would be a home run wasn't, seeming bored unless he was at the plate. Signs of immaturity magnified in a new world under the scrutiny of the press.
They'd never had anybody around like me at that time, and I was brash and I sounded cocky.
He really just wanted to excel. So to read a 1938 sports column by Charles Johnson, you see why Ted Williams is special. On the heels of criticism about his antics, Johnson wrote, "Instead of crawling into his shell and complaining that everyone is picking on him, Ted has turned over a new leaf. To us, that means he has the qualities of which great stars are made." Williams indeed listened to his manager, Donnie Bush. Rather than tearing up the clubhouse again, he tore up the pitchers instead, leading the league in hitting, batting .366 with 42 home runs. Off the field, he showed his softer side with children, visiting hospitals and sending autographed balls to kids he had met, with or without cameras around. One magazine called him baseball's bad boy, Boston's new batting idol, to delight and despair of the fans. And Ted Williams was favored to be the outstanding Rookie of the Year before the '39 season started.
I was someplace that I never dreamt I'd ever be. Looked different, weather was different. Fans were great. Here I am, a young kid, and I was hitting pretty good. And now they thought, you know, this guy's interesting. And I was doing things that no other left-hand hitter had ever done there.
Eccentric and energetic, with a graceful swing and powerful wrist action that virtually guaranteed success at the plate, Ted Williams seemed destined for greatness. The next Babe Ruth, the best hitter since Joe DiMaggio, the headlines predicted his future. He wore the rookie moniker well, clean cut, clean living, named the Kid by the clubhouse manager. And with his smile and quick wit, he was the story in Boston and in baseball.
I always did better, no matter what it's been in life. If I went into anything, I said, geez, I hope I can do it. And I always had more success that way than if I said, just get me up there, no problem here. And before I knew it, I was 0 for 8. But if I went in there with an attitude, boy, I hope I can do it, and grind a little bit, I always did better.
The fans loved him. He loved the fans. He wouldn't just tip his cap, he'd wave it. With no official award at the time, he won every unofficial Rookie of the Year honor.
And all of a sudden, well, they just thought I was great.
But 1940 was another story. The Red Sox reconfigured the outfield, hoping Williams might get more long balls to challenge the Babe's home run record. He was moved from right to left field to keep from staring at the sun. The fans didn't like it, thought he hadn't earned so-called special treatment yet. The honeymoon was over.
Boston was a funny town that year. And there was plenty of competition among the writers to get a story or to get some new angle on something. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad, but they had a story.
To add insult to injury, a columnist blasted Williams for brooding on the bench over a bad performance and criticized him for being extremely selfish, including for not visiting his parents in the winter, disparaging his upbringing. Getting personal, Williams thought, was a low blow.
It just irks me and irritates me so much.
And I might have said things that, I wish I hadn't have said.
He was baffled, felt betrayed. Williams' response was a vow never to tip his cap again. The love-hate relationship between the kid, the writers, and the fans would follow him his whole career. However, his relationship with the broadcasters, including Red Sox announcer Curt Gowdy, was far different.
His big thing was that the radio TV people boosted the game and the writers tore it down.
Williams forged ahead, and at spring training 1941, he's quoted as telling the sports writers, "Sure, I look forward to this season. How can they stop me?" Prophetic words.
And the fans get a thrill out of just seeing this big fellow step into that batter's box.
Ted Williams, confident, ambitious, and prepared, was ready for anything a pitcher wanted to throw at him.
It's in.
Fastball pitcher never bothered me. The little cuties out there, knuckleballs and screwballs and, not wanting to give you anything to hit. That guy that had the almighty fastball, wow! But I could hit that.
What did it feel like, though, to hit that time after time after
The
time?
greatest feeling in the world for a ball player or a hitter when he's really mashed one. Bow! Boy, oh boy. Greatest feeling, greatest sound in the world.
And in 1941, it was a symphony of hits. A duet, actually, with Yankee Joe DiMaggio, on pace to break Willie Keeler's all-time 44-game hitting streak. For Ted Williams, it was one multi-hit game, then another and another, and by early June, a 23-game hitting streak during which he hit .488. Williams was now seen as the Red Sox most dangerous hitter, more so than slugger, friend, and veteran Jimmy Fox. And people began to realize the kid could become the first major league hitter to hit over .400 for the season since Bill Terry in 1930. Williams and DiMaggio, creating intrigue and excitement in baseball, took center stage as teammates in the 1941 All-Star Game.
Boom, I come up and I hit a magic home run,
Williams swings. There's a high drive going deep, deep. It is a home run. A tremendous home run that brought in 3 runs.
DiMaggio snapped his streak just after the break at 56, so the focus shifted to the chase for .400 and the kid they would call King. Despite a nagging ankle injury, Williams went on a tear. Teams tried to stop Ted, pitching around him, walking him, but he was hot through the summer. In a game of inches and decimal points, just a few strikeouts and outs had Williams clinging to .400. And baseball history would come down to the last game of the season, September 28th. The Red Sox were out of the race and in Philadelphia for a doubleheader. Williams' batting average was .39955, rounded up, .400 for the record books. A few bad at-bats would jeopardize his average.
The manager of the team, Joe Cronin, said, you don't have to play today. He said, you're .400 officially. And he said, you don't have to play. And I was dumbfounded to think that they were talking that way to me because I never had an ounce of idea that I wasn't going to play. No, I said, well, I'm going to play.
And play he did. Both games, going 6 for 8 with a couple monstrous home runs. His batting average, .4057, rounded up to .406.
It's 60 years since that happened. 60 years. And, I mean, as I say it, I can hardly believe it. 60 years since that happened. And it's been something that's connected with me all the way.
The 1941 baseball season was truly a time to celebrate Ted Williams' awesome achievement, hitting .400 for the season, on his way to becoming a legend. But that winter, the course of his life, the course of the world would change.
A date which will live in infamy.
December 7th, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. The United States was at war. Ted Williams heard the news while at home in Princeton, Minnesota. He had registered that November with the local draft board, but soon after the attack, his status changed. He could be called into service any time. Considering his mother's financial dependency, because she was divorced, he filed for deferment, but was refused. But he won his second appeal and was not likely to be called to duty right away.
And I was accused of ducking the service, and I was this, and I was that. And they're all taking a shot at me, somebody in one of those papers.
But fans at home and around the league applauded him. So he won the battle of public opinion and kept on swinging, then chose to enlist. By night, he studied to qualify for flight school. By day, he pummeled opposing pitchers right up to the last game of the season.
All I was concerned with, actually, at that day was hitting against Izzy Trout, pretty good pitcher. And I did hit a home run that day before I left, home run.
Ted Williams finished 1942 winning the Triple Crown. But now it was time to serve his country in the Naval Cadet Corps.
I never flew a plane in my life. Used to drive a car pretty fast because I had a good car, but I didn't know what to expect or what might happen.
He earned his officer's commission, completed flight school, and was on his way to the Pacific, fully prepared to face combat when the war ended. And Ted Williams came home.
Baseball, baseball,
I was lucky. I didn't even notice it. I was just getting better all the time.
Ted Williams and baseball, baseball.
1946 was a very good year for Ted Williams and the Red Sox. They clinched the pennant on September 13th, 1-0 on Williams' one and only inside the park home run.
Baseball, baseball, baseball.
But while the 13th was lucky, the days after were not. His elbow was hurt, and a New York newspaper reported he may be traded. Ownership wouldn't comment. Ted was in the dark. Between that and St. Louis pitching that stymied Sox hitting, Boston lost the series 3-4. Late after the game, on the train, he broke down in tears.
We got there, we didn't win. And I did poorly. And I don't know why today. I don't know why.
He did win the Most Valuable Player award and his second Triple Crown, and would prove forceful again in '48, leading his team to a mid-season comeback. The Red Sox fell short in that bid for the pennant, and '49 would be a similar year, with one of Williams' worst moments in his career in a pennant-deciding game. Williams juggled the ball in the 8th, allowing a man to reach third. Then Yankee Jerry Coleman was at the plate.
One on, little looper in the short right field. Gorilla comes fast, and he can get it. Here comes Bauer. Here comes Johnson. Here comes Mike digging for the plate.
It was home again without a ring for Ted Williams, but world events were conspiring to make that disappointment seem minor in comparison. 1952, he's married with a 4-year-old daughter at the peak of his career, and the U.S. was at war with Korea. As a Marine Reserve, he's being recalled.
I didn't like it because I couldn't play ball.
But he accepted his assignment as one of 4 Major League ball players who were pilots, including Jerry Coleman, called to fly again. On April 30th, Boston bid him farewell in an emotional pregame ceremony. The crowd sang Auld Lang Syne, and the teams lined up like the shape of a wing, dugout to dugout. It seemed this would be the end of Teddy Ballgame's 14-year career. He hit a home run to win the game. Then Ted Williams went to war.
Lo and behold, here I am in Korea.
He was flying the F-9 Panther, making bombing runs, serving with future astronaut John Glenn. The weather was cold and damp, but he flew anyway. Then the odds caught up with him. He was hit by enemy fire, and he remembers thinking,
If there's anybody up there who can help me, now's the time to do it.
And we heard this Mayday, Mayday.
And as I got over the field, the plane kind of blew up, blew the wheel doors off.
And he landed, from what I gather, about 190 miles an hour with no flaps, no wheels, no nothing.
And luckily, I got down in one honk.
he was back flying the next day, no time to recover, and after 39 more missions, he was deathly ill with pneumonia. The sickness and the effects of the crash sent him home. He received a hero's welcome. Boston kept his locker for him, and at 35 years old, he played the rest of the season, 37 games, hitting .407. Ted Williams was back. The next few years, 1953 to 57, were unhappy years for him. He divorced, was tired, sometimes sick. He remembers, every move I made was a headline. At 40, he was the oldest to win a batting championship. He was just 5 hits shy of duplicating his magical 400 season. While the Red Sox weren't very good, Ted Williams was still captivating the baseball world with his bat. And finally, captivating his critics in the press, who began to see that the once sassy kid had turned into a baseball treasure with his work ethic, determination, his achievements, even his longtime charity work. Still, age and injuries were taking a toll.
When did you know it was time to retire?
I remember this day I was at second base. 2 men out, tight ball game. And I'm on second base, and I'm looking at the shortstop and second baseman. Then I looked at home plate. Geez, it looked like I was 1.5 miles, and I said, I got to go around this way to get there. Took a couple of deep breaths and thought, boy, I hope I can make it. And that's when I realized, as much as any time, but I could still hit. I could still hit a little bit.
That's what kept him going and going. He wasn't expected to field or run like a younger player anymore. Ted was about hitting. After a neck injury just before the '59 season, his friend and Red Sox owner Tom Yawkey suggested it might be time to retire. Williams gave his answer in the first game of the season with a 500-foot home run. And the next year, another milestone, home run number 500. Among peers such as Ernie Banks, Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle, Jackie Robinson, and Willie Mays, Ted Williams was named Player of the Decade. He did his legacy a favor by choosing to hang him up while he still had something left. September 28, 1960, the last day the Red Sox would ever field a guy wearing number 9.
It was a gloomy, sort of a gray day and rather cold.
Announcer Kurt Gowdy learned from the clubhouse boy that Williams wouldn't be going on to the 2 games in New York.
But don't tell anybody. I said, don't worry, I won't.
But he couldn't contain the significance of Williams' last at-bat.
Ted swung, and as that ball started, I knew it was going to be a home run. As I started out to the right field bleachers, I said...
And there's a long drive to deep right. That ball is going, and it is gone. A home run for Ted Williams in his last time at bat in the Major League.
I never, at that time, I didn't think, well, this is my last time I'm going to hit a home run or anything like that. I was just trying to hit the ball hard, which I always try to do.
Rounding the bases, he thought about tipping his hat to the fans.
Well, I thought about it, but just for fleeting seconds, and I didn't.
Why not?
Just couldn't do it. Just I didn't want to do it. I couldn't do it. I hadn't done it. And so I didn't.
He doesn't remember celebrating after the game. It was over, he recalls. That's all.
With no tempting offers to stay in the game to coach or manage right away, Williams realized it was for the best because now he finally had his long summers free to fish. Coming up, Ted Williams, the outdoorsman, and a look at his baseball and personal treasures. And later, from the archives, his speech at the National Baseball Hall of Fame. In May of 2000, we visited the Ted Williams Museum and Hitters Hall of Fame in Hernando, Florida. That's where we met his only son, John Henry, who later died of leukemia. The museum has since been relocated to the ballpark home of the Rays in Tampa. But at the time of our one-on-one, the father-son relationship seemed focused largely on the splendid Splinter's legacy in the game.
As much as Ted Williams is one with a bat, he's also one with nature. During his off seasons as a player, he'd cast aside the pressures of the game for the thrill of the catch.
What's the biggest fish or toughest catch you ever made?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that, dear, because that is one of the, and when I say this, they say, boy, that guy's been around fishing.
In retirement, he took his adventuresome spirit to new heights, fishing and hunting all over the country, all over the world.
I fished the Zambezi River in Africa, and I caught the tiger fish. It has the big mouth and the big teeth, and they go together like that. And I had a chance to fish in Peru, and that's where I caught the biggest fish I ever caught, 1,234 pounds, 14 feet long, and bigger around than I can go like that, 14 feet. Boy, was he big.
At the time, it was the 8th largest marlin ever reeled in, one of his fishing feats that landed him in the International Game Fish Association's Fishing Hall of Fame in Fort Lauderdale.
He knew more about anybody.
He shared his time with those who shared his love for the great outdoors.
So he started asking me questions about Wyoming. What's the best stream out there? What time? What's the best year? What fly do you use? And this and that. Yeah, he's the best fisherman I ever fished with.
You're the starch in my collar.
Williams was on the Sears Sports Advisory staff and urged people to walk softly and carry a big stick, lending his star name to sporting goods and food.
Champions, choose Wheaties.
Such as cereal.
Breakfast of champions.
And Ted's root beer. A bigger challenge, managing the business of his valuable signature and memorabilia.
And enjoyed doing most of them. But some turned out better than others.
When you raise your eyes.
Many of the pictures and mementos from his life's journey, from playing to flying to even his stint as a manager for the Washington Senators, can be found in a special place in Florida, his home base since training there during the war years. 100 miles north of Tampa, in the small lake town of Hernando, is the Ted Williams Museum and Hitters Hall of Fame.
We're from New England, so he was everybody's hero.
Laid out like a baseball diamond.
It has a home plate, first base, second base, third base.
The 400 Club, what do you think that means?
You experience the different dimensions of his life.
Well, it affects me because he's been my hero all these years.
It's pretty cool because you get to see all his old gloves and bats.
I learned that Ted had his own root beer. It was delicious and creamy.
The Hitters Hall of Fame opened in 1995 with a star-studded guest list including former President George Bush. An event each February inducts Ted's top hitters and contributors to the game.
But you either had to be a great hitter or you could be a very mediocre hitter who knew a lot of great fishing spots.
That he can really honor his friends at his own place, and they all turn around and honor him back. I can only imagine how great that really makes him feel deep inside.
John Henry Williams, Ted's only son, is active in helping his father carry out his vision for his legacy, the betterment of baseball, especially youth baseball.
Kind of lost that homegrown feeling of picking up a few baseballs and playing in the park ground like Dad used to do in San Diego.
The Ted Williams League is designed for skill level more than age group. It's based on 15 years of research and development by Williams and his teaching protege, Steve Ferroli.
You know, the base is the right distance and the bats are correct and the ball is the right size, and get it all right to provide the right opportunity to build self-confidence.
It's expected to expand from the Northeast to franchise leagues, including Alaska and San Diego, eventually with championships played on the museum grounds.
It's not, as competition as much as it is teaching.
Teaching and hitting are synonymous with Ted Williams,
Good position in the batter's box seems awfully important to me.
who has fans coast to coast.
Many of us, as we grew up in Brooklyn, we actually read his book on hitting, and we used to talk about that a lot. He had a book that was required reading by the high school coach.
While countless kids and big leaguers swear by that book, The Science of Hitting, and want to emulate him, John Henry was not driven to try to follow in his father's footsteps.
I had to make choices every summer, play baseball or go fishing with Dad. So, and you have to play baseball if you're going to be a baseball player. So there's always constantly choices that took me away from being a baseball player.
So you went fishing with Dad?
Oh, yeah.
He's learned from his father's life that passion is good, but balance is important.
He did everything so to the nth degree that a lot of other things fell by the wayside.
Including marriage, 3 times divorced, and time with his children. A bittersweet thing happened when Ted Williams suffered 2 strokes in the mid-90s.
It forced our relationship to come very close, and it was probably one of the biggest blessings in disguise. Not only did it force that, but it probably saved his life, because attention got brought to his health.
They have so much love in their heart for their dad because his dad has so much love in his heart for the 2 kids.
Ted's love for children in general stems from what he didn't have as a child, as much as what he admired in his charitable mother. So he's long been devoted to the Red Sox Jimmy Fund, providing help to kids with cancer. Williams is caring and admittedly cantankerous at times, but perhaps that's the perfectionist in him, a man with high expectations and a quest for knowledge.
When did you become so inquisitive, so curious, and such a student, not just of the game, but about nature and just the world?
Well, when I was a young kid, I certainly wasn't interested in schoolwork. But then I was in the Navy, and now I'm going through aviation training, learning about combustible engines, learning why the propeller is so important, what makes the airplane fly. Do you know what makes the airplane fly?
I'll never understand it.
And he began applying the laws of physics to his game.
Wanted to know why the ball curved.
From his museum, to writing books, to videotapes, CD-ROMs, and websites, Ted Williams is devoted to spreading the word on hitting.
I think I know a lot about it.
Even while holding the bat from the 406 season.
Any old player or anything, he'll hold it like, he's feeling it. Now, that bat's an older bat now, and it's getting heavy, but you get the feel of it.
Always the teacher, pop quizzes are to be expected.
What did I tell you is the most important thing?
For hitting?
Yeah.
To be relaxed and to anticipate what the pitcher is.
I made it a lot simpler than that. You're always ready for what?
Always ready for the fastball.
Teaching and challenging another hitting great and future Hall of Famer, the late great Tony Gwynn, is next on One on One. Red Sox fans revere Ted Williams for what he meant to Fenway Park. He is one of Boston's favorite sons. In 1991, he and Joe DiMaggio received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor bestowed by the president in peacetime. Ted Williams is one of America's favorite sons. But his roots are in San Diego.
It's a regret of my life that I didn't spend more time here earlier, but I had other things I was thinking about and doing, and it was a pretty much of a busy 50 years.
Williams has enjoyed making up for lost time, returning for events such as the naming of the Ted Williams Parkway and to reestablish ties.
I have so many wonderful friends here.
Largely due to his friendship with Bob Breitbart.
No, not you.
Breitbart is his high school buddy, local sports pioneer, and founder of the Hall of Champions, which recognized Williams in 1996 with the All-Time Star Award.
I can't thank you enough, and everybody responsible, even if there's a couple of sports writers in this.
The Padres have embraced the former PCL Padre as one of San Diego's favorite sons.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Williams with today's first pitch.
And the team has dedicated a little Padres park in his name.
It makes me feel so good, so proud, so humble.
His alma mater, Hoover High School, is dear to his heart. In the history room of the library are newspaper clippings and pictures documenting his career and visits to the campus. Librarian and baseball fan Dennis Donnelly says the collection and campus attract writers, researchers, even occasional honeymooners from Boston.
People want to literally retrace his footsteps. You'd like to see what he saw and feel what he felt, perhaps.
And for freshmen who want to make the baseball team, a book report on the 37 grad is required.
That's a big honor for our kids to say they play, on the same field that's named after Ted Williams. So it's important that they know who he is.
In a rare return to his childhood playground in North Park, there's a sense that even while he's not the same little kid who once dreamed,
I'm trying to see where I used to hit.
the details of yesteryears seem as if they were yesterday.
There used to be a short fence in center field, and I hit my first sandlot Sunday game home run over that center field fence. And I don't know exactly where it is now, but that was a big hit for me. I thought, boy, home run.
Wherever Ted Williams goes, the subject of hitting .406 inevitably comes up.
I think it'll be done again. You got a guy here in San Diego that might be the next 400 hitter too,
The parallels between Williams and Tony Gwynn are intriguing. Williams, number 19 as a PCL Padre, Gwynn, number 19 in the majors. Both playing to at least age 40, Williams with 6 batting titles, Gwynn with 8. But while Williams hit for power, Gwynn hits for contact.
Line drive into center field.
In fact, in '97, Gwynn and Larry Walker were on pace to hit 400, the first to challenge Williams' long-standing record in 15 years. And Gwynn's success, hitting more home runs in 2 months than all of the year before, came 2 years after first meeting Ted Williams.
If you're underneath the pitch, what are you, generally early or late?
He's brutally honest, and he might not say what you want to hear, and that's what I found out the first time I met him. He didn't exactly say what I wanted to hear. He said, son, let me tell you, Major League history is made on that ball inside. I told him, I said, but if you handle that ball, Mr. Williams, if you handle that ball, then they'll go back out there. And he said, son, Major League history is made on the ball inside. And so this year I finally found out, or last year I finally found out what he was talking about. And what he's saying is that when they throw you inside and you show them that you can hit the ball out of the ballpark, that you can handle the ball inside, when you handle that ball, then they go back away. And I got to the All-Star break, I had 13 home runs.
High drive, center field and deep. He leaps and it's gone!
I got 13 home runs. I'm doing pretty well. And the second half of the season, I hit 4 home runs. And the reason why is because Major League history is made on the ball inside. And I owe Ted Williams a big thank you. Because
Gleaning such insight is special for those who spend even a little time with him.
Right-handed hitter, I moved into the first base side.
That's all right.
Reliever Trevor Hoffman joined a small group of Padres just talking baseball.
That's all he cared about. He was so adamant about talking strategy and, why do you throw this and what are you thinking when you do that? And
Hoffman mentioned what it meant to be in Williams' presence at the 1999 All-Star Game.
I got choked up thinking about having an opportunity to be there and on the field and I'll remember that the rest of my life, obviously.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the greatest hitter that ever lived, number 9, Hall of Famer, baseball legend, Ted Williams.
Number 9 broke his 60-year covenant and tipped his cap to the fans. And peers, from contemporary all-stars to all-century players, were in awe. This magical moment between Ted Williams, players, fans, and millions watching on television was as intimate as it was magnificent.
Thank God for baseball. It's the greatest thing that ever happened.
While Ted Williams called San Diego, Boston, and Florida home, there's one place he will live as long as there is baseball: Cooperstown. We'll turn back the clock to his memorable induction speech when One-on-One featuring the Legends returns.
At the plate,
only Ruth and Gehrig matched him for average and homer power. He had power and average. He out-hit both of them.
in person,
Besides being a great hitter, what really made him a star was his charisma, his personal charisma.
to his family,
He's a very caring person.
Ted Williams makes a big impression.
He is an icon.
For all he accomplished in his 22 years, baseball fans ask, what if? What if he maintained his average in the nearly 800 games he missed for military service? His projected rankings would be considerably higher, placing him first in 5 of 10 benchmark categories. But what ifs can work in other ways. What if he hadn't played those last 2 games in 1941 and instead had an asterisk indicating he hit 39955 instead of a definitive 406? What if that crash in Korea had taken him out of the game? But Ted Williams isn't about what ifs. He's about hard work and doing the best with what you're given and giving back. He wouldn't have it any other way.
The 2 things I'm proudest of in my life is that I became a Marine pilot. And equally as important, equally as satisfying, equally as proud of, was that I became a member of baseball's Hall of Fame.
In the summer of '66, he was immortalized in Cooperstown. Despite his battles with writers, he believes they voted for him because they felt he rated the honor.
Thank you. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
His acceptance speech then, juxtaposed with his thoughts now, underscore his lifelong connection with the game.
I'm thinking of my old playground director in San Diego, California, Rodney Luscombe. My old high school coach, Ross Caldwell. My managers who had such patience with me and helped me so much, because ball players are not born great. They're not born hitters or pitchers or managers, and luck isn't the key factor. No one has come up for a substitute for hard work. I've never met a great baseball player who didn't have to work harder at learning to play baseball than anything else he ever did.
Well, I have some regrets in my baseball life. I have some regrets in my personal life. You know, when I was a young kid, I got to read a book by Bing Crosby, and the name of the book was Just Call Me Lucky. The longer I live, the more I realize that luck has played a great part of my life.
I feel both humility and pride, because God let me play the game and to learn to be good at it. Proud because I spent most of my life in the company of so many wonderful people. Baseball gives every American boy a chance to excel, not just to be as good as someone else, but to be better than someone else.
What do you tell kids who maybe want to pick up a bat and play this game and maybe have big dreams like you had?
They gotta show me that they want to hold the bat and play with the bat, and then you give them the best advice you can. They gotta swing the bat and swing the bat and swing the bat and swing the bat.
And I hope that someday the names of Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson in some way can be added as a symbol of the great Negro players that are not here only because they were not given a chance.
Is there anything you still would like to do?
If I had my one wish, it would be that I could be connected with a team that was going to win the World Championship or be in it to have the excitement of being there.
What would you like to be remembered for in 50 years when people look back?
That I contributed to this game of baseball in a high level.
He once declared, "All I want out of life is that when I walk down the street, folks will say, 'There goes the greatest hitter who ever lived.'" That was when he was 20. Now he's 81.
I don't say the greatest. I don't think I was the greatest. But I think I was a pretty good hitter. And that would be good enough for me.
So in closing, I'm grateful, and I know how lucky I was to have been born in America and had a chance to play the game I loved, the greatest game of them all, baseball.
I mean, it was baseball, baseball, baseball. Got to where I love Boston. I was getting better all the time.
Suddenly and deliberately attacked.
As the fans are eager to welcome back Ted Williams.
We heard this Mayday, Mayday.
Just hit the ball hard. Boy, that guy's been around fishing. I know more than anybody else how lucky I've been.
Somehow, the kid from San Diego, California, who could read a pitcher like no other, swing like no other, who was held to a higher standard like no other, balanced the kudos with the criticism and excelled. We can learn from that. That practice can make it nearly perfect. Dedication can pay dividends, and all of your choices become part of your legacy. So true for Ted Williams, the legend, Ted Williams, the man. I'm Jane Mitchell. Thank you for watching One on One.
For backstory content, visit 4sd.com.